So there are projects that will be funded through official development assistance. There will be projects that will be funded by private equity. Some will be funded by GAA, or General Appropriations, and then some through corporate funds. So for this one, for the NGAC, this will be funded by private equity.
Okay.
So we will, BCDA's equity in the project will be the land, and then the private partner will put up the capital to develop the structures.
What about the you said there were 3 phases of the project, or 4?
4 phases. Yes, the 4 phases are the remaining 4 phases, or the remaining 3 phases would be between 2023 to 2065. So of course there will be, again, there will be a number of projects between that time until the final.
But for those projects, there are no allocations of money.
I won't say that because right now, for example, ODA has been very friendly to us. The Philippines, with its investment, with its good investment standing and credit rating, has access to ODA that is very favorable in terms. In fact, for example, if I'm not mistaken, either the Manila-Clark Railway or the Mega Manila Subway, that would be funded by Japanese ODA. We were able to get an interest rate of between 0.25 to 0.45 rather than the standard 0.9%. And that's because of the good credit standing of government right now, as well as the warm reception of foreign countries towards the infrastructure program of the government.
So how is it that you're doing all the projects starting today or starting now?
I'm sorry, I don't get the question.
I said, how is it that you are all starting these new projects? Was this ever possible, so we say 5 years earlier?
Really, much has been said about political will and the government's focus on infrastructure spending, because whereas before infrastructure spending was not placed high on the priority of the government, now it's been a realization that because of the lack of infrastructure spending, most of the investments or foreign investments tend to go to Metro Manila, and growth has not devolved into other regions of the country. So one of the rationale for the Build program is to develop other economic centers that would host economic activity.
What is the New Clark City currently at right now?
Well, right now, for the New Clark City, it's still greenfield with the exception of the 2 access roads that are being built, as well as the NGAC, the National Government Administrative Center that recently broke ground. PhilInvest would eventually be starting their construction in the area within this year as well. So that would cover 100 hectares as well.
For the area that you are going to be developing for this huge project, how are you paying for is it going to be government expropriation for those who own the land?
For the properties that are affected by the project, we will be paying for that through corporate funds.
So are you going to be paying fair market value, or are you going to be paying
by the law? I believe there's a new law that requires already the fair market value.
Oh, is that so?
All right, that's good. Yeah. That's good. Because you will have a lot of displaced farmers.
Yes.
You will have a lot of displaced industries, stoppage industries. How are you going to absorb all of those?
Actually, whenever we do expropriation, we also value the structures as well as the crops that are the source of their livelihood.
Because that area is like the rice fields,
yes.
Right? That's the rice bowl
yes.
of the whole area. So how are you going to get the production of all the fields
for this one?
Taking over?
The affected homeowners, apart from the expropriation and valuing the crops as well as their structures, some would be relocated in another portion of the property just north of the north of the boundary, if I'm not
Will
mistaken.
the land that you will be relocating them to have the same
Yes,
qualities for,
yes.
for rice production?
Yes.
So the entire area covered by the project, are those the whole Clark Air Base before?
The
That-
Clark Air Base is actually this area. NCC is north of this property. It's around 17 kilometers from here. If there's a direct access road, yeah. Later on, we will be showing you.
Yeah,
a map.
what is the percentage of land that was occupied by Clark in comparison to all the big projects that you have to acquire land from private?
Actually, the lands are titled to BCDA.
It's a
It's a government
The
property.
entire 9,000
Yes.
How
Yes.
to do that?
Oh,
The
yes.
entire
32,000
It
hectares.
is government property.
32,000 is...
By virtue of RA 7227.
So that's expropriation.
Yes.
So what
No, no, it was transferred to us by virtue of a law that was signed in March 13, 1992.
Were they compensated? People who
For those affected by the project, we are in the process of actually compensating and relocating them.
So
To be
there are
honest,
still private
we're not yet completed in terms of relocating the affected farmers or the project affected people, but we are in the process of already relocating some of those who've already signed an agreement with us.
Before you did this project, did you do community studies? Did
Yes,
you get
we do. Whenever we go into a project, we normally do census, we do tagging, and then we look at the affected infrastructure.
and
Yes,
did
we
you
do
get
that.
their feedback?
Yes, we do that too. Yeah. We have a community relations team that handles that for us.
Maybe just check on the relevance of this to our market, which is the North American market.
Okay.
What is it? Why do we share that story with them? Is it open for investments already?
Yes, it is open for investments. Actually, because Clark Freeport Zone actually has limited land available already. So the next growth area would be north of this property. Yeah. And for example, for the North American market, you can also have access to, if some of your manufacturers decide to set up operations here, they will be entitled to an EU or a US GSP. So some EU or US GSP is a generalized scheme of preferences. It is, we are the only Southeast Asian country, Southeast Asian country that has a GSP plus. So basically, if you produce goods along the lines of, let's say footwear, headgear, apparel, travel goods, if you produce it from the country and then you export it to the US or European markets, that will enter their markets at zero tariff. Whereas if you produce it from China or some other ASEAN country, that would be levied around, if you're coming from China, you would easily be levied around between 42 to 64%. And that's even with the most favorable nation status.
Well,
So-
my quick question would be, because the North American market is very much into, to start with, it's a very impressive and ambitious